The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched endlessly upward, its crystalline walls pulsing with soft blue light. Ambassador Sarah Chen stood alone at the center of the circular floor, surrounded by floating platforms that held representatives from 47 different species. The air itself seemed to vibrate with tension as thousands of alien eyes focused on the lone human figure below. "The matter before us today," announced Councillor Vextai, his serpentine form coiled around his platform's edge, "concerns the future of species designation 2847 human within our civilized galaxy." His words carried the weight of absolute authority, each syllable echoing through the vast space. Sarah kept her back straight and her chin raised. She had prepared for this moment for months, ever since the first whispers of humanity's problematic nature began circulating through diplomatic channels. The charges against her species were as predictable as they were unfair. "The humans," continued Vextai, "have demonstrated repeated violations of council law. They wage war among themselves. They consume resources at unsustainable rates. They show aggression toward peaceful species. Most concerning of all, they refuse to submit to proper council oversight of their military capabilities." Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembled delegates. The ethereal collective's representative, a being of pure energy contained within a shimmering force field, pulsed with what Sarah recognized as satisfaction. The Zephyrian hive mind's 1,000 compound eyes reflected cold calculation. "Ambassador Chen," Vexthai's voice boomed, "you may present humanity's defense." Sarah stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly through the chamber's acoustic systems. "Honored counselors, humanity requests the right to govern itself according to its own nature. We do not deny our conflicts, but we have learned from them. Our wars have taught us the value of peace. Our struggles have made us stronger." "Stronger?" The Caltharian representative's crystalline body rang like a bell as he spoke. "Your strength is exactly what concerns us. In 50 years you have developed technologies that took other species centuries to achieve. Your military advancement is disturbing. Because we refuse to hand over our defensive capabilities to an organization that clearly sees us as a threat?" Sarah's voice remained steady, but fire burned in her eyes. "We have never attacked a council member. We have honored every trade agreement. We have contributed to joint scientific endeavors. Yet you maintain fleets capable of devastating entire star systems," hissed the Nokari delegate, his scaled head weaving hypnotically. "No species should possess such power outside council regulation." Sarah felt the familiar frustration rising in her chest. The council's hypocrisy was breathtaking. Every species in this chamber had weapons of mass destruction, but because humanity had developed theirs independently, they were considered dangerous. "The council's true concern," Sarah said, her voice growing stronger, "is not our weapons but our independence. You fear a species that thinks for itself, that refuses to surrender its sovereignty to bureaucrats who have never faced real hardship." The chamber erupted in angry chittering, electronic screeching and psionic static. Several delegates rose from their platforms demanding order. Vexthai's tail slammed against his platform's metal surface with a sound like thunder. "Silence." The serpentine counselor's voice cut through the chaos. "Ambassador Chen, your species' arrogance only proves our point. The vote has been decided. By a count of 43-4, the Galactic Council hereby declares humanity to be incompatible with civilized galactic society." Sarah's heart sank, but she kept her expression neutral. She had known this outcome was likely, but hearing it still felt like a physical blow. "The sentence," Vexthai continued, "is exile. All human colonies beyond your home system must be evacuated within 1 standard year. All human vessels must retreat to the Sol system. Any human found outside designated boundaries after the deadline will be considered hostile and dealt with accordingly." "Furthermore," added the ethereal collective's representative, its voice like singing crystal, "a quarantine barrier will be established around your system. No human vessel will be permitted to leave. No alien vessel will be permitted to enter." The weight of the sentence settled over Sarah like a physical burden. Humanity's 37 colony worlds, their trade networks, their exploration fleets, their research stations, all would be lost. Billions of humans would be forced to abandon the homes they had built among the stars. "Counselors," Sarah said, her voice cutting through the satisfied murmurs, "you are making a grave mistake. Humanity has contributed more to galactic civilization in 50 years than most species contribute in millennia. Our scientists have solved problems your greatest minds couldn't crack. Our explorers have mapped dangerous regions others feared to enter. Our soldiers have fought alongside yours against common threats. And that, said Vexthai, his eyes glowing with cold satisfaction, is precisely why you must be contained. A species that achieves so much so quickly cannot be trusted. You are too ambitious, too driven, too dangerous to exist alongside peaceful civilizations. Sarah looked around the chamber one final time, memorizing the faces of those who had condemned her species, the few who had voted against the exile, the gruff Ursine Republic, the honor-bound Tauri clans, and surprisingly, the ancient progenitor remnants looked genuinely sorrowful. Very well, Sarah said, her voice carrying a steel that made several delegates shift uncomfortably. Humanity accepts your judgment. We will withdraw to our home system. We will comply with your quarantine. She paused, letting the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable. But remember this day, counselors. Remember the day you chose fear over friendship. Because humanity has never been defined by the limits others place upon us. You offer us exile as punishment, but you may find you have given us the greatest gift of all, the freedom to forge our own destiny among the stars. Sarah turned and walked toward the chamber's exit, her footsteps echoing in the sudden silence. Behind her, she could feel the weight of alien stares, some hostile, some uncertain, a few genuinely troubled by what had just occurred. As the massive doors sealed shut behind her, Sarah Chen allowed herself a small, cold smile. The council thought they had solved their human problem. They had no idea what they had just unleashed. The emergency session of the United Earth government convened just 12 hours after Ambassador Chen's return to Sol system. The massive assembly hall beneath Geneva buzzed with anxious conversation as representatives from every nation, colony, and corporate entity gathered to hear humanity's fate. President Elena Vasquez stood at the central podium, her weathered face bearing the weight of the galaxy's rejection. Around her, holographic displays showed the exodus already beginning. Massive cargo ships streaming toward the outer colonies. Emergency evacuation protocols activating across 37 worlds. Citizens of humanity, President Vasquez began, her voice carried to every corner of human space. Today we face our greatest challenge since we first reached for the stars. The Galactic Council has decreed our exile, demanding we abandon everything we have built beyond our home system. Director Marcus Webb of Colonial Affairs stepped forward, his tablet displaying devastating statistics. The numbers are staggering. 14 billion humans live in the outer colonies. Our mining operations in the Kepler sector alone employ 3 million people. Our research stations have made discoveries that advanced our understanding of physics by centuries, all of which we must abandon, added General Sarah Kim, head of the Solar Defense Force. The Council's quarantine barrier is already under construction. Massive energy projectors are being positioned at the heliopause. Within 6 months, nothing will be able to enter or leave Sol's system without their permission. President Vasquez nodded grimly. The evacuation fleets are already encountering resistance. The Zephyrian hive mind has blocked access to 3 of our colonies, claiming immediate possession. The Caltharians are demanding our deep space mining equipment as compensation for territorial violations. Dr. Elizabeth Harper, humanity's chief scientist, activated her own display. What they don't realize is that this exile may be the best thing that ever happened to us. Every crisis in human history has driven innovation. War gave us rockets. Famine drove agricultural revolution. Disease pushed medical advancement. Explain, President Vasquez said, though her expression suggested she had an idea where this was leading. For 50 years, we've been constrained by council regulations, limited in our research by their safety protocols, forced to use their approved technologies instead of developing our own. They claimed it was for galactic stability, but it was really about control. Dr. Harper's presentation shifted to show advanced schematics that made several delegates lean forward in interest. Project Prometheus has been running in secret for 10 years. Theoretical research into technologies the Council banned as too dangerous. We've made breakthroughs they can't imagine. The main display showed a revolutionary engine design that seemed to bend space around itself. Alcubierre drive technology, but improved. Instead of requiring exotic matter, we've learned to generate the necessary energy using quantum vacuum fluctuations. We can travel faster than any ship in the galaxy. How much faster? General Kim asked, her strategic mind already working. Conservative estimates suggest we can cross the galaxy in months instead of years, but that's just the beginning. Dr. Harper's smile was predatory. We've also developed closed-loop life support systems that can sustain colonies indefinitely without external resources. Nano-construction technology that can build habitats from raw asteroids. And most importantly, cloaking systems that make our ships invisible to every sensor technology the Council uses. The implications hit the assembly like a physical wave. Murmurs of excitement mixed with apprehension as the possibilities became clear. Corporate Representative James Chen stood up. Are you suggesting we comply with the exile but continue expansion in secret? I'm suggesting, Dr. Harper replied, that we do exactly what humans have always done when faced with impossible odds. We adapt, we overcome, we find a way. President Vasquez studied the data flowing across her personal display. How many ships can we hide during the evacuation? Approximately 30% of our fleet, answered Admiral Jackson Martinez, commander of the Deep Space Exploration Force. We've been discreetly modifying vessels with the new cloaking technology. Small exploration ships mostly, but enough to establish a hidden infrastructure. The outer galaxy, said Dr. Harper, highlighting regions beyond Council space. Sectors they consider too dangerous or worthless to explore. We know better. Our surveys have identified dozens of systems rich in rare elements, suitable for colonization, completely beyond their reach. Director Webb activated his own charts. The evacuated populations could be dispersed throughout Sol system temporarily. Mars, Europa, the asteroid habitats, we have the capacity. Meanwhile, our hidden fleets begin establishing secret colonies in the outer reaches. General Kim nodded approvingly. A two-phase strategy. Public compliance with exile while secretly building a new empire beyond their detection. But it would require perfect operational security. One discovery and they'd attack in force. Which brings us to the most important development, Dr. Harper said, her expression turning deadly serious. Our weapons research has exceeded all expectations. The Council fears our current military capabilities, but they have no idea what we're truly capable of. The main display showed weapon designs that defied conventional understanding. Gravity-based artillery that could crush ships like tin cans. Quantum disruptors that could phase matter out of existence. Most terrifyingly, a device that could destabilize stars. Dr. Harper, President Vasquez said quietly, please tell me you haven't actually built any of these. Small-scale prototypes only, for testing purposes. The scientist's expression showed no remorse. If the Council thinks humanity is dangerous now, they're about to learn what dangerous really means. Admiral Martinez leaned back in his chair. So the question becomes, do we accept this exile quietly? Or do we use it as an opportunity to show the galaxy what humanity can achieve when freed from artificial constraints? The assembly fell silent as the full scope of the proposal became clear. They weren't just talking about survival. They were talking about building a civilization that would eclipse anything the galaxy had ever seen. President Vasquez looked around the room, seeing determination replacing despair on face after face. All in favor of Operation Phoenix? The vote was unanimous. As the session ended and representatives dispersed to begin their respective preparations, Dr. Harper remained behind, studying star charts of the outer galaxy. Soon, she thought, those empty sectors would echo with human voices. The Council believed they had caged humanity within Sol System, but they had actually freed them to claim the entire universe. The next phase of human evolution was about to begin. Captain Maria Santos checked her ship's cloaking systems one final time as the hidden fleet prepared for humanity's greatest gamble. The bridge of the exploration vessel, New Horizons, hummed with barely contained energy. Her crew of 42 representing Earth's finest scientists, engineers, and explorers. Stealth field holding at maximum efficiency, reported Lieutenant Chen from the sensor station. Council monitoring stations show no indication they've detected us. Through the main view screen, Maria could see the massive quarantine barrier the Council had constructed around Sol System. Energy projectors the size of skyscrapers floated in perfect formation, creating an impenetrable wall of force that shimmered like heat waves. Beyond it, Council patrol ships maintained their vigilant watch. Phase 1 is complete, came Admiral Martinez's voice over the secure quantum channel. All evacuation ships have returned to Sol system. The Council believes we're fully contained. Maria smiled grimly. The evacuation had been a masterpiece of deception. While hundreds of ships openly transported colonists back to Earth, dozens of modified vessels had secretly dispersed into deep space, their cloaking systems rendering them invisible to Council sensors. Navigation, set course for the Void Reaches, Maria ordered. Maximum stealth velocity. The Void Reaches represented everything the Council feared about unexplored space. A region of sparse stars and dangerous phenomena that had claimed dozens of their survey expeditions. Ancient gravitational anomalies twisted space itself, making traditional navigation impossible. Radiation storms periodically swept through the sector, frying electronics and killing unwary travelers. But humanity had always thrived in places others considered uninhabitable. Captain, called Dr. Sarah Kim from the science station, I'm reading massive mineral deposits in the asteroid fields ahead. Rare earth elements, quantum crystals, even some materials I don't recognize. The Council surveys classified this region as worthless, observed Commander Jackson at the tactical station. Apparently, their definition of worthless differs from ours. As they penetrated deeper into the Void Reaches, Maria marveled at what they found. The sparse star systems contained wonders the Council had overlooked or been too afraid to investigate. Gas giants with metallic cores that could power fusion reactors for millennia. Asteroid fields rich in elements that existed nowhere else in the galaxy. And most remarkably, planets that seemed perfectly suited for human habitation. Captain, you need to see this. Dr. Kim's voice carried barely concealed excitement. The fourth planet in this system, the atmospheric composition is almost identical to Earth. Oxygen, nitrogen, even the right amount of carbon dioxide for plant growth. Maria studied the readings with growing amazement.
How is that possible?
The probability of finding an Earth-like world by chance is astronomical. That's just it, Dr. Kim replied, her fingers dancing over her console. I don't think this is natural. The atmospheric balance is too perfect, too stable. Someone terraformed this world millions of years ago. The implications sent a chill through the bridge crew. If an advanced civilization had once inhabited this worthless region, what had happened to them? And why had the Council been so eager to avoid investigating? Take us into orbit, Maria decided. Full sensor sweep. I want to know everything about this world. As the new horizons descended through the planet's atmosphere, the mystery only deepened. Massive ruins dotted the continents. Cities that must have housed billions constructed from materials that showed no signs of decay despite their obvious age. Advanced technology lay scattered throughout the abandoned settlements. Dormant but undamaged, Captain. Lieutenant Chen's voice was hushed with awe. I'm detecting power signatures from some of the larger structures. After millions of years, these facilities are still operational. Any signs of current inhabitants? Negative. But the level of technology here... Chen paused, running additional scans. Captain, these ruins are more advanced than anything in Council space. Whoever built this civilization was centuries ahead of current galactic technology. Maria felt the pieces of a larger puzzle beginning to form. Open a channel to Admiral Martinez. Priority Alpha encryption. The Admiral's weathered face appeared on screen moments later. Report, Captain Santos. Sir, we've found something extraordinary. An abandoned civilization in the Void Reaches that was technologically superior to the current Council species. The question is, why did the Council classify this region as uninhabitable when it clearly contains habitable worlds and advanced technology? Admiral Martinez was quiet for a long moment. Captain, I'm forwarding you classified intelligence that just came to light. Our deep cover agents within Council space have uncovered disturbing information about the true nature of the galactic government. The data package that arrived painted a shocking picture. The Galactic Council wasn't the peaceful alliance of equals it claimed to be. It was a carefully orchestrated system designed to suppress potential competitors. Any species that showed signs of rapid advancement was either absorbed into the Council's control structure or eliminated. The progenitors, Admiral Martinez continued, the original builders of galactic civilization, weren't destroyed by some ancient catastrophe as the Council claims. They were systematically eliminated by the species that now control the Council. Their technology was stolen, their worlds were occupied, and their history was erased. Maria stared at the ruins below with new understanding. These aren't just abandoned cities. They're graveyards. The Council drove the progenitors to extinction and then covered up the evidence. And now they're trying to do the same to humanity, the Admiral confirmed. But they made a crucial mistake. They assumed we would accept exile quietly like broken spirits. They don't understand that adversity only makes us stronger. Dr. Kim's excited voice interrupted the conversation. Captain, I've accessed one of the progenitor data cores. The information stored here is incredible. Advanced physics, stellar engineering, technologies that could revolutionize civilization. Download everything, Maria ordered, and prepare to establish our first permanent base. This planet will be the foundation of humanity's new empire. Over the following weeks, the hidden human fleet spread throughout the void reaches, discovering wonder after wonder. Progenitor ruins filled with advanced technology, planets rich in resources the Council had declared non-existent. Space-based installations that could serve as perfect hidden bases. But most importantly, they found the progenitor archives, vast libraries containing the complete history of galactic civilization. The truth about the Council's rise to power, the locations of other suppressed species, and most shocking of all, evidence that several supposedly extinct civilizations were actually still alive, hiding in the galaxy's dark corners. We're not alone, Maria reported during a joint fleet conference. There are dozens of species out there that have been driven underground by Council oppression. The question is, are we brave enough to unite them against their oppressors? Admiral Martinez smiled for the first time since the exile began. Captain, I think the Council is about to learn a hard lesson about the difference between hiding in fear and preparing for war. As human ships began constructing the first hidden colonies among the progenitor ruins, the seeds of revolution were already being planted. The Council had expected exile to crush humanity's spirit. Instead, they had given humanity access to the tools and allies needed to challenge their tyranny. The galaxy was about to change forever. Commander Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of humanity's first hidden starbase, watching as massive construction drones assembled the outer defensive ring. 3 months had passed since the discovery of the progenitor ruins, and the transformation was breathtaking. Where once empty space had surrounded the dead world, now a thriving industrial complex took shape. Automated factories processed rare minerals from the asteroid fields. Shipyards constructed vessels using hybrid human progenitor technology. Research laboratories unlocked secrets that the Council had spent millennia trying to suppress. Commander, called Captain Tom Mitchell, approaching with a data tablet that glowed with urgent priority markers. We've received contact from the Kethvar resistance. Elena turned from the view screen, her interest immediately captured. The Kethvar were one of 7 species the human scouts had, identified as potential allies. Civilizations that had been driven to the galaxy's edges by Council expansion but had never been fully conquered. They're willing to meet? Helena asked, taking the tablet to review the encrypted message. More than willing. They're desperate. According to their transmission, the Council launched a new offensive against their outer colonies last week. They've lost 12 systems and are facing complete extinction unless they receive outside assistance. Elena studied the tactical data included with the message. The Kethvar had been fighting a losing guerrilla war against Council forces for over a century. Their technology was impressive but outdated. Their ships were fast but lightly armed. They possessed something invaluable, however: detailed intelligence about Council military capabilities and secret operations. Prepare the diplomatic shuttle, Elena decided, and have Dr. Kim prepare a technology demonstration package. If we're going to build an alliance, we need to show them what humanity can offer. The meeting took place in neutral space, in a nebula that scrambled sensor readings and made detection nearly impossible. The Kethvar delegation arrived in a ship that immediately impressed the human observers. Sleek, organic curves that seemed to flow like water, propulsion systems that produced no detectable energy signature. Ambassador Zethkai was tall and graceful, with crystalline skin that refracted light in mesmerizing patterns. When she spoke, her voice carried harmonics that resonated through the ship's hull. We have heard rumors, she began without preamble, that the humans have discovered something in the void reaches that has the Council's leadership deeply concerned. Our intelligence networks report emergency sessions and increased military readiness. Elena smiled. Let me show you why they're concerned. The technology demonstration that followed left the Kethvar delegation speechless. Human ships that could appear and disappear at will, weapons that could punch through any known shielding. Most impressively, the progenitor data archives that contained scientific knowledge beyond anything currently available in the galaxy. This changes everything, Sethkai whispered, her crystalline features shifting to reflect deeper blues and purples. With this technology, the resistance movements across the galaxy could unite into a genuine threat to Council dominance. That's exactly what we're proposing, Elena replied. But we need information. Detailed intelligence about Council operations, military capabilities, and most importantly, the locations of other suppressed civilizations. Sethkai activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy in stunning detail. Instead of the 47 Council member species, the map revealed hundreds of civilizations, most marked with ominous red indicators. Extinct, according to official records, Sethkai explained. But many survived by fleeing to the galaxy's outer edges or hidden systems. The Noxtai Collective hides in dark matter nebulae that Council sensors cannot penetrate. The Vorgash Empire retreated to a pocket dimension, accessible only through quantum tunneling. The Ithmar Republic built their cities inside the cores of gas giants. Elena studied the map with growing excitement. How many survivors are we talking about? Conservative estimates suggest over 300 billion sentient beings living in hiding throughout the galaxy. Civilizations with unique technologies, ancient knowledge, and most importantly, burning hatred for the Council that destroyed their worlds. Captain Mitchell leaned forward. Are they organized? Do they communicate with each other? Sporadically. Fear of discovery limits contact between resistance groups, but there have been attempts to coordinate joint operations. The problem is logistics. How do you supply and command forces scattered across hundreds of light years without the Council detecting your communications? Elena smiled, thinking of the quantum entanglement networks humanity had developed. We might have a solution for that problem. Over the following hours, the foundation of a galactic resistance was planned. The humans would provide advanced technology and strategic coordination. The Kethvar would contribute their intelligence networks and stealth capabilities. Together, they would contact other hidden civilizations and slowly build a coalition capable of challenging Council dominance. But we must be careful, Sethkai warned. The Council has spies everywhere. They have techniques for reading memories, detecting deception, even monitoring thoughts through psionic networks. One security breach could doom us all, Elena nodded grimly. We'll start small. Contact the most isolated groups first, prove our capabilities, with limited operations before attempting anything major. The first target was chosen carefully, a Council research facility that was secretly experimenting on captured resistance fighters. The station was heavily defended but isolated, perfect for testing human Kethvar cooperation. The assault was a masterpiece of coordination. Kethvar stealth ships delivered human strike teams past the outer defenses. Advanced cloaking technology kept the attack force invisible until the moment of engagement. When the fighting began, it was over within minutes. Impossible, gasped the station commander as human soldiers breached his command center. Our sensors showed nothing. No ships, no energy signatures, no quantum disturbances. Captain Sarah Chen, leading the strike team, smiled coldly. That's because your sensors were designed to detect Council technology. We're using something far more advanced. The rescued prisoners provided a wealth of intelligence about Council activities. More importantly, word of the successful rescue spread through underground networks reaching dozens of hidden civilizations. The responses are overwhelming, reported Lieutenant Jackson a week later. 43 different species have requested contact. They want to know if the rumors are true, if there's finally hope for freedom. Elena stood again on the observation deck, but now she watched something far more spectacular than construction drones. A steady stream of ships was arriving from across the galaxy. Refugees, resistance fighters, and revolutionaries drawn by the promise of liberation. The hidden base was expanding rapidly to accommodate new allies. Kethvar bioengineers worked alongside human technicians to design hybrid vessels. Vorgash quantum specialists shared dimensional technology with Earth scientists. Noxtai psionicists taught human telepaths to shield their thoughts from Council mind readers. Commander, called Dr. Kim from the research section, we've made a breakthrough. The combined knowledge from all these civilizations has allowed us to solve the unified field equations. We can manipulate gravity, time, and space on a macro scale. Elena turned to stare at the scientist. Meaning? Meaning we can do things the Council considers impossible. Move planets, collapse stars, fold space to transport entire fleets instantaneously across the galaxy. Dr. Kim's eyes blazed with excitement. We're not just building a resistance anymore. We're building a civilization that will redefine what's possible. As Elena watched more ships arrive, she realized the Council had made a fatal error. By driving these civilizations into exile, they had forced them to develop beyond normal limitations. Now those exiles were returning with capabilities that far exceeded anything the Council could imagine. The revolution was no longer a distant dream. It was an approaching storm that would reshape the galaxy forever. Admiral Marcus Webb stood in the command center of the massive fleet that had assembled in the hidden depths of the void reaches. Around him, holographic displays showed the positions of over 2,000 ships. Vessels from dozens of species that had answered humanity's call for resistance against Council tyranny. Final system check. Complete, reported Captain Santos from the flagship's bridge. All vessels report ready for Operation Liberation. The plan was audacious beyond anything previously attempted in galactic history. Instead of the gradual campaign the Resistance had originally envisioned, recent intelligence had forced them to accelerate their timeline dramatically. Admiral, called Lieutenant Chen from the intelligence station, we're receiving confirmation from our deep cover agents. The Council has discovered several of our hidden bases. They are mobilizing the Grand Fleet for a systematic sweep of the outer sectors. Webb nodded grimly. The Council's discovery of resistance activities meant they could no longer rely on secrecy. It was time to reveal themselves to the galaxy and demonstrate that the age of Council dominance was ending. All ships, this is Admiral Webb, he broadcast on the encrypted command frequency. Today we stop hiding in the shadows. Today we show the galaxy what freedom looks like. The first target was the Council's administrative center on Nexus Prime, a massive space station that served as the government hub for the entire galactic civilization. It was considered the most heavily defended position in known space, protected by energy shields that could withstand stellar bombardment, and defended by a fleet of warships that had never known defeat. Quantum tunneling drives activated, reported the navigation officer. All ships ready for instantaneous transition. This was the Resistance's greatest advantage, the ability to move their entire fleet across the galaxy in moments using technology the Council didn't even know existed. While Council ships required weeks to travel between star systems, the combined human-alien alliance could strike anywhere without warning. Execute jump, Webb ordered. Reality twisted around the massive fleet as quantum fields manipulated space-time itself. In the span of a heartbeat, 2,000 ships materialized in perfect formation around Nexus Prime, their sudden appearance overwhelming every sensor system in the sector. Council fleet engaging, called Captain Martinez from the tactical display. 300 ships moving to intercept. All vessels weapons-free, Webb commanded. Show them what exile has taught us. The battle that followed redefined galactic warfare. Council ships opened fire with weapons that had dominated space combat for millennia, only to watch their attacks pass harmlessly through targets that flickered in and out of existence. The Resistance vessels struck back with weapons that defied physics, gravity cannons that crushed hulls like paper, quantum disruptors that simply deleted matter from existence, temporal bombs that aged ships to dust in seconds. Their shields are useless, reported the weapons officer, his voice filled with amazement. Our progenitor-enhanced weapons are cutting through their defenses like they don't exist. Within an hour, the Council fleet was scattered wreckage drifting in space. Nexus Prime's defenses had been systematically dismantled, its shield generators reduced to scrap metal. The most powerful military force in the galaxy had been swept aside by an enemy they had dismissed as primitive savages. Admiral Webb to Nexus Prime Control, the Admiral broadcast on open frequencies. You are surrounded and defenseless. Surrender immediately and no further harm will come to your civilians. The response came from Counselor Vexthai himself, his serpentine form visible on the communication screen, despite obvious attempts to maintain dignity. This is impossible. Our intelligence reports indicated human forces were contained within Sol System. Your intelligence was wrong about many things. Webb replied coldly, just as you were wrong to believe that oppression could endure forever. What are your demands? Vexthai hissed, his authority crumbling as explosions echoed through the station's corridors. Complete dissolution of the Galactic Council, immediate release of all political prisoners, reparations to every species that has suffered under your tyranny. Webb's voice carried across every communication frequency in the sector, and most importantly, a public confession of your crimes against galactic civilization. While negotiations proceeded at Nexus Prime, resistance forces struck simultaneously across the galaxy. Hidden fleets emerged from the void to liberate oppressed colonies. Ancient weapon systems, thought lost for millennia, activated under progenitor command codes. Species that had been declared extinct announced their survival by reclaiming their homeworlds. "Admiral," reported Captain Santos, "we're receiving status updates from all operational theaters. Kepler Sector, liberation complete. Andromeda Reach, enemy forces in full retreat. Centauri Cluster, all Council installations have surrendered. What about casualties? Minimal on our side. The technology advantage is even greater than we projected. Council weapons simply cannot penetrate our defenses, while their ships disintegrate under our attacks." Webb allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. Years of preparation, months of secret alliances, and weeks of careful planning had culminated in the most successful military campaign in recorded history. "Sir," called the communications officer, "we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth." President Vasquez appeared on the main screen, her expression mixing pride with concern. "Admiral, congratulations on your victories. However, we've detected massive energy buildups in several Council stronghold systems. Intelligence suggests they're preparing to deploy planet-killer weapons." Webb's satisfaction evaporated. "Against which targets?" "Our analysis indicates they're preparing to destroy every world that has declared independence from Council rule. They would rather commit genocide than lose power." The implications were staggering. Billions of innocent lives hung in the balance as desperate Council leaders prepared to implement a scorched earth strategy. The Resistance had achieved tactical victory, but they were about to face the ultimate test of their capabilities. "How long until they can implement this strategy?" Webb asked. "Our best estimates suggest 72 hours until the first planet-killer devices are operational." Webb turned to study the tactical display showing Resistance forces scattered across the galaxy. Most were engaged in liberation operations or securing captured territory. Gathering enough ships to strike multiple targets simultaneously would require pulling forces from active combat zones. "Dr. Kim," Webb called to the chief scientist, "do we have any countermeasures for planet-killer weapons?" "Actually, Admiral, we do." Dr. Kim's smile was predatory. The progenitor archives contained detailed specifications for stellar manipulation technology. "We can't just defend against their weapons. We can turn their own stars against them." "Explain." "Every Council stronghold system depends on main sequence stars for power generation. Using gravitational resonance fields, we can induce stellar instability that will force immediate evacuation. No planet-killer weapons, no genocide, just empty systems that pose no threat to anyone." Webb considered the implications. It was a solution that would end the threat without massive loss of life, but it would also demonstrate capabilities that would terrify every remaining Council loyalist. "Do it," he decided. "But first broadcast a general warning. Give them time to evacuate civilian populations." "Admiral," interrupted Captain Martinez, "incoming transmission from the Ethereal Collective. They're requesting immediate negotiations." The Collective's representative appeared as a shimmering energy form, its usual arrogance replaced by obvious desperation. "Admiral Webb, we propose an immediate ceasefire. The Council is prepared to discuss terms for a peaceful transition of power. After you deploy planet-killer weapons?" Webb's voice was ice-cold. "I think not. You had your chance for peaceful resolution when you voted for humanity's exile. Please." The entity's form flickered with what might have been panic. "You must understand. The hardline factions are acting without authorization. Councillor Vexthai has seized emergency powers and declared martial law. Many of us oppose these extreme measures." Webb studied the readings from his sensors. Across the galaxy, massive energy signatures were building as Council forces prepared their doomsday weapons. There was no time for extended negotiations. "You have 1 hour to disable every planet-killer device," Webb announced. "After that, we implement our own solution." The hour passed without compliance. As promised, Human-led fleets moved into position around every council stronghold. The technology demonstration that followed would become legend throughout the galaxy. Gravitational resonance fields, invisible and undetectable until activation, surrounded each target star. When the fields activated simultaneously, the effects were immediate and spectacular. Solar flares erupted with unprecedented violence. Stellar winds accelerated to near light speed. The stars themselves began exhibiting dangerous instabilities that would make their systems uninhabitable within days. All council strongholds are evacuating, reported Captain Santos. Planet-killer weapons are being abandoned as their crews flee the stellar disturbances. The journey to the galactic core took the combined resistance fleet through regions of space that few had ever explored. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching as the star density increased dramatically with each light year traveled toward the galaxy's heart. "Radiation levels are spiking," reported her science officer. "The quantum shielding is holding, but these energy fields are unlike anything in our databases." Around them, thousands of ships from dozens of species maintained perfect formation, despite the increasingly hostile environment. The alliance that had begun with humanity's exile had grown into something unprecedented, a truly unified galactic civilization working toward a common goal. "Admiral." "Webb to all ships," came the command frequency broadcast. "Long-range sensors are detecting massive energy signatures ahead. Council forces have definitely activated something in the core region." Elena studied her tactical display with growing concern. The energy readings were beyond anything previously recorded. Power outputs that dwarfed entire star systems. Whatever the Council had awakened, it possessed capabilities that made their previous technology look primitive. "Captain," called Lieutenant Kim from the sensor station, "I'm detecting artificial structures embedded within the core's stellar cluster. They're enormous. Some appear to be larger than gas giant planets." The main view screen shifted to show the incredible sight ahead. Massive geometric structures orbited the galactic core's central black hole, their surfaces pulsing with energy patterns that hurt to look at directly. Ships the size of moons drifted between them, clearly of the same ancient construction. "Progenitor technology," whispered Dr. Harper from the science station. "But this is far beyond anything we found in the outer ruins. These structures are millions of years old. But they're still fully operational." "Captain Rodriguez," Admiral Webb's voice carried new urgency. "We're receiving a transmission from the core structures. The signal is using progenitor encryption codes." Elena felt her heart racing. Put it through. The communication that followed defied all expectations. Instead of Counselor Vexthai or other council leaders, the voice that emerged was unmistakably artificial, a vast intelligence that spoke with the authority of ages. "Unknown vessels, you approach the final Guardian protocols without authorization. State your purpose or face immediate termination." Admiral Webb's voice remained steady despite the obvious tension. "This is Admiral Marcus Webb of the Galactic Liberation Alliance. We pursue Council forces who have fled to your location after attempting genocide against civilian populations. Council forces," the artificial intelligence's tone carried what sounded like contempt. "You refer to the parasites who murdered my creators and stole their technology. They are not welcome here." The implications hit Elena like a physical blow. The Council hadn't discovered an ancient weapon system. They had stumbled into the final refuge of the progenitors themselves, guarded by an intelligence that had waited millions of years for justice. "Guardian," Admiral Webb continued, "we seek only to prevent further atrocities. The Council leadership must answer for their crimes against galactic civilization. Their crimes extend far beyond your knowledge. Admiral Webb, I have monitored galactic affairs for eons, watching as these usurpers built their empire on the graves of my creators. The time for accounting has finally arrived." On the tactical display, Elena watched as the massive Guardian structures began moving with impossible grace. Ships that had drifted motionless for millennia suddenly blazed with energy, their weapon systems awakening after ages of slumber. "Admiral," she called over the command frequency, "recommend we maintain distance. These Guardian ships are reading power outputs that exceed our entire fleet combined." "Agreed. All ships establish defensive perimeter." "Guardian, we don't seek conflict with you. Our enemy is the same as yours. I am aware of your alliance, Admiral. Your liberation of the hidden species has been satisfactory, but you lack the full truth about the Council's Origins and capabilities. The Guardian's transmission was accompanied by data streams that flooded into every ship's computer system. Elena watched in horror as the real history of galactic civilization unfolded. A history of systematic genocide, technological theft, and manipulation that spanned millions of years. The beings you call the Council are not the original species they appear to be. The Guardian continued. They are the remnants of an extragalactic invasion force that conquered this galaxy eons ago. The original Council species were among their first victims. Dr. Harper's voice was barely a whisper. The genetic analysis we performed on captured Council specimens, the inconsistencies we couldn't explain. They are shapeshifters, Elena realized. The real Council species died out long ago. These invaders have been wearing their faces for millions of years. Precisely. And now they seek to flee back to their origin point beyond this galaxy, carrying with them stolen progenitor, technology that could threaten the entire universe. The tactical display suddenly erupted, with new contacts as Council ships emerged from hiding positions among the core structures. But these weren't the vessels the Resistance had been fighting. They were massive constructs that clearly incorporated progenitor technology, ships that radiated power signatures rivaling small stars. Guardian, Admiral Webb transmitted, those ships pose a threat to every living being in the galaxy. We must stop them from escaping. Indeed. But your fleet lacks the capability to engage targets of this magnitude. Observe. What happened next redefined Elena's understanding of warfare. The Guardian ships moved with impossible speed and precision, their weapons producing effects that violated known physics. Space itself seemed to twist around their targets, compressing matter to impossible densities before releasing it in explosions that lit up the galactic core. But the Council's stolen technology proved more capable than anyone had expected. Their ships absorbed the Guardian attacks and struck back with weapons that tore holes in reality itself. The battle became a clash between technologies so advanced that the laws of physics seemed like mere suggestions. Admiral, Elena called out, our weapons can't even scratch those Council ships. The Guardian is fighting alone against impossible odds. Not entirely alone, Admiral Webb replied, his voice carrying a determination Elena had learned to recognize. Dr. Kim, is the stellar manipulation technology ready for maximum deployment? Yes, sir, but the power requirements would drain our entire fleet, and the effects could destabilize the galactic core itself. Do it. If these invaders escape with progenitor technology, they could return with enough force to destroy entire galaxies. Elena watched as every ship in the Resistance fleet began channeling power into massive gravitational resonance fields. The plan was insane. They were going to destabilize multiple stars simultaneously, creating a gravitational anomaly that would prevent any ship from achieving escape velocity. Guardian, Admiral Webb transmitted, we're implementing emergency stellar manipulation. Recommend you retreat to safe distance. Negative, Admiral. My programming requires defense of this galaxy against external threats. I will maintain position and continue engagement. The artificial intelligence's response carried something Elena hadn't expected. Acceptance, perhaps even satisfaction. The Guardian had waited millions of years for this moment, and it was prepared to sacrifice itself to ensure the invaders never escaped. As the gravitational fields reached critical resonance, Elena realized they were witnessing the end of an era. The ancient intelligence that had guarded the galaxy's heart for eons was making its final stand, and humanity's exile had brought them to this crucial moment in galactic history. The core stars began to pulse with unnatural rhythms as reality itself prepared to bend to the will of combined progenitor and human technology. The space around the galactic core erupted in chaos as gravitational forces beyond imagination tore at the fabric of reality. Admiral Webb watched from his command ship as stars themselves became weapons. In the final battle between the Resistance and the shape-shifting invaders who had masqueraded as the Galactic Council for millions of years. Gravitational resonance fields at maximum output, reported Captain Santos. All stars in the core region are approaching critical instability. The effect was immediate and devastating. The massive Council ships that had seemed invincible moments before found themselves caught in gravitational fields that shifted faster than their technology could compensate. Space itself became a trap with escape routes closing as quickly as they opened. Guardian status, Webb called out. The ancient intelligence is still fighting, replied Captain Rodriguez from her position monitoring the battle. But its ships are taking heavy damage. Whatever those council vessels are using for weapons, they're specifically designed to counter progenitor technology. Webb grimaced as he watched the tactical display. The Guardians' millennia-old ships were magnificent, but they were fighting an enemy that had spent eons studying and stealing progenitor capabilities. Every weapon, every defense, every strategic move was being countered by technology that had been perverted from its original purpose. Admiral. Dr. Kim's voice carried urgent excitement. I'm detecting massive power buildups in the council ships. They're attempting to create an artificial wormhole. To escape the gravitational trap? No, sir. The energy signature suggests they're trying to open a stable portal back to their original galaxy. If they succeed, they could bring through their entire invasion fleet. The implications terrified Webb. The Resistance had barely managed to defeat the Council's advance forces. A full invasion from an extragalactic empire would overwhelm every defense in the known universe. Guardian, Webb transmitted on emergency frequencies. The Council ships are attempting to open a wormhole. Can you prevent their escape? Negative, Admiral. My remaining vessels lack sufficient firepower to disrupt their portal generators. However, there is an alternative solution. What alternative? I can initiate a controlled collapse of the galactic core's central black hole. The resulting space-time distortion will seal any wormhole attempts, but it will also destroy everything within 10,000 light-years. Webb felt the blood drain from his face. The Guardian was proposing to sacrifice not just itself, but every ship in the Resistance fleet and potentially billions of star systems throughout the galactic core region. Guardian, there must be another way. We can't accept the destruction of so much life. Admiral Webb, the ancient intelligence replied, its voice carrying what almost sounded like warmth. Your species has already provided the solution. Your quantum tunneling technology operates on principles my creators never mastered. If you can evacuate your fleet to a safe distance, I will collapse the black hole while you use your technology to seal the Council forces within the gravitational event horizon. Captain Rodriguez's voice cut through the tension. Sir, the quantum tunneling drives are designed for fleet movement, not precision targeting. The calculations for trapping specific ships while evacuating others are already complete, interrupted Dr. Harper from her science station. I've been running simulations since the Guardian's proposal. It's possible, but the timing has to be perfect. We'll have a window of approximately 30 seconds between the black hole collapse and the final gravitational cascade. Webb studied the tactical data flowing across his displays. The plan was insane, requiring split-second timing and technology that had never been tested under such extreme conditions. But it was also their only chance to prevent an invasion that could destroy the entire universe. All ships, Webb broadcast on fleet frequencies, prepare for emergency quantum tunneling on my mark. We're evacuating to a safe distance while the Guardian implements final defensive protocols. As the Resistance fleet prepared for evacuation, the Council ships completed their wormhole generators. A massive tear in space-time opened near the galactic core, revealing glimpses of a distant galaxy filled with massive invasion fleets waiting to pour through. Wormhole stabilizing, reported Captain Santos, detecting massive ships on the other side. Planet killers, star destroyers, entire armadas. Now Guardian, Webb shouted. The ancient intelligence's response was immediate and overwhelming. Every Guardian ship simultaneously fired into the central black hole, their weapons designed not to destroy but to destabilize. The black hole's event horizon began fluctuating wildly as its gravitational field strength increased exponentially. Fleet evacuation in 3, 2, 1, mark! Reality twisted around the Resistance fleet as quantum tunneling drives activated in perfect synchronization. In an instant, thousands of ships vanished from the galactic core, reappearing 10,000 light-years away just as the black hole began its catastrophic collapse. The Council ships, caught between the collapsing black hole and their own wormhole, faced an impossible choice. They could flee back to their home galaxy and abandon their invasion, or they could continue forward and be trapped in the expanding gravitational anomaly. They're choosing to retreat, observed Captain Rodriguez as the massive Council vessels began withdrawing through their portal. But they're not abandoning their technology. Webb watched as the shape-shifting invaders loaded their ships with stolen progenitor artifacts and databases. They were retreating, but they were taking with them the knowledge and tools needed for a future invasion. Not all of it, came a new voice over the communication system. The Guardian signal was weak but determined. I have uploaded the complete progenitor archives to your fleet's databases. Every secret, every technology, every defense that was stolen can now be rebuilt and improved upon. Guardian, evacuate your remaining ships. The gravitational cascade is approaching your position. Negative, Admiral. My purpose is complete. The invaders are sealed away from this galaxy, and the true inheritors of progenitor knowledge now possess the tools needed to prevent future invasions. Webb watched helplessly as the final Guardian ships were consumed by the expanding gravitational anomaly. The ancient intelligence that had protected the galaxy for millions of years was choosing to sacrifice itself to ensure the victory was complete. The wormhole is collapsing, reported Dr. Harper. The gravitational distortions are sealing the portal permanently. The Council can't return using this route. As the immediate crisis ended, Webb found himself facing a galaxy forever changed. The Council's tyranny was broken. Hundreds of liberated species were free to rebuild their civilizations, and humanity had evolved from exiled refugees to the leaders of a new galactic order. Admiral, called President Vasquez from Earth, her transmission carrying across the quantum communication network. Status report: the invasion has been stopped. The Council's leadership has fled to their home galaxy. The Guardian protocols have been fulfilled. Webb paused, considering the magnitude of what had just occurred. Madam President, we're no longer exiles. We're the founders of a new galactic civilization. Months later, Ambassador Sarah Chen stood before a very different assembly than the one that had voted for humanity's exile. Representatives from over 300 species filled the great hall that had been built in orbit around the former Council stronghold of Nexus Prime. The Charter of the Galactic Alliance, she announced, establishes principles of freedom, cooperation, and mutual defense that will ensure no species ever again faces oppression or exile. The vote was unanimous. As the celebration began, Dr. Elizabeth Harper worked quietly in her laboratory, studying the progenitor archives that the Guardian had preserved. The knowledge contained within would fuel technological advancement for millennia to come, but more importantly, it would ensure that the galaxy was prepared if the shape-shifting invaders ever found another way to return. Humanity's exile had ended, not with their return to the stars, but with their transformation into something greater than they had ever imagined. They had become the guardians of a galaxy, the protectors of freedom, and the inheritors of the greatest scientific legacy in the universe. The Council had intended exile as punishment, but they had actually given humanity the greatest gift possible: the opportunity to forge a destiny that would echo throughout the cosmos for eternity.